You also talk about fat and how it benefits the brain. So, why does our brain need fat? Not many people know.
Yeah.
Not many people know about it because we've vilified fat for so long.
Oh, I
People
know.
don't even realize fat is brain fuel.
hmm Yeah, so a lot of our brain is made up of fat and cholesterol, and DHA as one of the sort of essential fatty acids. So cholesterol is just absolutely crucial for brain function and also for the lining that surrounds your nerves in your body. Um, and yeah, I think we've been given a lot of bad advice in terms of avoiding fats and focusing more on grains and carbohydrate heavy foods, because ultimately complex carbs all are broken down into simple sugars in the body. So I don't really see what the difference is eating a complex carb, which is supposedly healthy, versus sugar. And then you get into difficulties with high fructose content, and fructose being metabolized slightly differently in the body, and being more likely to contribute to issues such as fatty liver.
Mhm.
So yeah, so fat, yeah, absolutely essential. And actually, when you're following a ketogenic diet, you have a metabolic shift, as you know. So you move from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner, and your brain can run on fat breakdown products, which are ketone bodies. And we know that ketones are a very clean source of fuel for the brain in comparison to glucose. We know that there are advantages to being in nutritional ketosis in terms of reducing inflammation levels in the brain. And we know from research that if you have a very high carbohydrate heavy diet, um, you will have inflammation in the body, and that includes and can include inflammation in the brain, because insulin serves a very important purpose, which is to drive down your blood glucose level, because too high a glucose level is damaging to the body. And we know that ketones can help to normalize some of the abnormal shifts that happen in neurotransmitter pathways when there is inflammation in the brain. Excuse me. So the tryptophan pathway is one of the main ones that we know about, where if there are conditions of inflammation, then you can have lowering of serotonin levels, lowering of GABA levels, and GABA is one of the main relaxation type neurotransmitters, one of the inhibitory ones. And then you run into problems with lots of high glutamate levels, with glutamate being one of the most excitatory neurotransmitters. So the one responsible for you feeling agitated or anxious. And we know a ketogenic diet can help to normalize those ratios again via its anti-inflammatory effects.
Let's talk about red meat.
Okay.
No one would believe that red meat could solve so many metabolic issues. No
Mm-hmm.
one, even a decade ago, it was all new.
Yeah.
Um, I was vegetarian. It was only 2 years ago. I shifted to eating meat heavy
Okay.
meals and it changed my life. So,
Yeah.
why do we need red meat in our diet? How does it help the brain?
So red meat is hands down one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. We won't necessarily get into arguments over organ meats versus muscle meats, but just red meat in general is highly nutrient dense and has protein and appropriate fats for the body that are very bioavailable, which doesn't always happen in plant foods. And there are many substances within red meat in particular, such as carnosine and carnitine and anserine and ubiquinone. There are lots of different molecules that have actually been shown to have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects at the level of the neurons in your brain. So I think that is why a lot of people find when they shift to a very red meat heavy diet that symptoms they may have had in relation to their mental health really do improve. And just thinking of that, someone popped into my mind who contacted me on social media who has autism, and they'd messaged me privately to say that going carnivore and going entirely animal based had really improved many of their symptoms of autism that they've lived with for years. So we just keep saying testimonial after testimonial when people do shift to a very meat-heavy diet. And I think there are many different reasons for that. Of course, all the micronutrients, such as the vitamins and minerals in meat as well, are very important in different neurotransmitter pathways in the brain, because a lot of them act as cofactors in enzymatic reactions. And yeah, there are just many, many reasons.
Now, coming back to the fat. So when we say fat, the brain thrives on fat, but are we specifically talking about animal fats?
I would say so, yes, because I think if we think about what sort of fat we have in the body, then our fat is going to be fairly similar to that of other animals. And there have been some really interesting talks that I've watched from Dr. Paul Mason in Australia, particularly looking at heart disease and arterial plaques. And one fascinating podcast or video that he came out with was talking about how plant sterols may actually be part of the arterial plaque, and it may not have been cholesterol all this time. So he really put the question out there about whether he could recommend coconut oil, for example, or extra virgin olive oil to people anymore. And I think there's a big question mark over that. And I just find the whole subject fascinating.
Yeah, and we're finding out more. We're finding out more. I just recently interviewed Dr. Stephen Hussey.
Oh, yes.
Medicine doctor, and he
Love
himself
his
had a
work.
heart attack. He's type 1 diabetic as well. But at the age of 34 or 37, he was very young when he had his heart attack. So,
Yes.
yeah, his book does talk about all of those things.